It's Vernisa, and I'm here to speak up. It's time to speak up. Hello everyone, my name is Vernisa, and this is my podcast, Speak Up. Hope you guys are all having a great week so far. We hit the middle of the month of the middle of the year, so I hope everything's going well. For those of you that don't know, the mission statement for this podcast is we will use our voices to motivate people to overcome life's challenges through self-love and respect. So, self-love and respect are two core things we hold near and dear to our hearts. So, I got to throw that in there. So I am actually, before I get started, before I introduce our amazing guests that we have, a quick shout out to my amazing sponsors. Shout out to My Bar, located at 720 East Manchester in Inglewood, California. Get your nails, your lashes, your hair done. Ask for mine. Tell them that SpeakUpJV sent you. The Instagram is at myy.bar. And also shout out to Be Actual Natural. Why settle for less? All their products are created with you in mind for a goal to let your self-love show through your self-care. Their chemical-free hair and skincare products are handmade, plant-based, and free of fillers or preservatives. Treat yourself while taking care of yourself. Their Instagram is at beactualnatural.com. You can reach their website at www.beactualnatural.com. So like I was saying, I'm excited for tonight's guest. It's actually a returning guest, but with a lot of growth and new updates to talk about for tonight. And it goes with tonight's episode. I'll get into what it's about, but y'all give it up for Augie Ray. Woo!
Oh, nice.
Welcome back.
I know it's great to be on the show. Definitely. I really appreciate just everything that you've been doing and just your mission statement is just about speaking up and really being active in that. So thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. And I know you got some more gems to drop on here, so I'm super excited to have it.
Nice. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Yeah. So tell our new listeners about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I'm not big into adjectives or like things that describe a person, but I'm more like I have like accolades and things that I've done. Like I'm a Grammy winning producer, songwriter. I'm an artist myself, visual artist. I teach over at CSUN. I teach hip hop over at CSUN. I'm also an author and just overall pluralist. And so what I was getting to is mainly I like to coin myself as a pluralist because I don't like to box myself into so many different things or just to do one thing, but I like to do so many things. And that's really been my, my Achilles heel is like being able to do, several different things at one time. So that's a bit about myself. I love doing music and doing art and things of that nature for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. And your art is dope, by the way. I got the chance to go to one of your events back when we first had you as a guest, and it was dope, by the way. I'll throw that in there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I enjoy, my art background really started from, just having an idea. I didn't grow up like doing art actually. I just kind of woke up one day and was like, yo, I think I want to just do art today. And I started doing art. And it's been great that it's really progressed. I went from, not doing any shows or not even having art to, now I think I'm up to like 10 shows. So it's been really a privilege and great to be able to lean into that.
10 shows. Wow. Okay. Clap for yourself. That's amazing. More to come too.
More to come. Yeah.
Way more to come. And I love your perspective with your art too. Like I don't know. It was just like all the descriptions of each painting. I was like, wow. My favorite was the Mars and Venus one. The women and men.
That one actually sold that night. Actually, or the next day. I try to think from like, I think there's like a duality between like having Black art. And what I mean by that is sometimes. Black art is really dope and we don't really get to see, too much of that. I mean, we're seeing more of it now, but, Eurocentric ideologies have like totally contaminated like the way that we look at art, even the facial structure of like, like a person's face or whatever is more than likely if you're looking at Picasso, if you're looking at, Marcel Duchamp and a few other people, it's kind of like you're in this space of like boxed in of this is what it needs to look like. And so, with African American art or Black art, sometimes you see a lot of, like a lot of pain and stuff that you'll see with these art pieces, and I think that's
Mhm.
cool. But I think there needs to be a duality. So yeah,
And like you definitely bringing it all.
thank you. Yeah.
So, any new projects since your last Speak Up JV appearance?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a deep dive inward, to really uh, understand myself, because I think last time we spoke, I was more so focused on, Red, which was kind of, Red was my art show. It was the name of my album, and I like to pair everything together, like albums mixing with like the visual. So as far as like the growth and the change, Red was more about like being bold in like who I am as an artist, just like kind of like here I am. You automatically can't like look past like the color red, you know what I mean? And so that's where I was more so like, hey, I just want to be seen. As I started to, evolve and create new movements within that, I went into what I called child's play. And child's play was more about utilizing the inner child. Now I've arrived to another movement, which is sorry but not sorry, which is more about being unapologetically yourself. You know what I mean? And living in that unapologetically self moment, because a lot of times we're censored, whether we're censored by the media, or we're censored by like our friends, our family, and things of that nature. It doesn't allow us to really be ourselves. And so right now the
Mhm.
movement that I'm in is sorry but not sorry, and everything surrounding that is everything that it encompasses. I mean, I've done a live performance that's on YouTube right now, which is doing really well or whatnot. But it was a pop up where I put a lot of these, um, you know, words up that I felt reflected like my inner self or whatnot, the way I really feel about society and the way I feel about myself and things of that nature. And then I did a live performance where, everyone that was a part of the performance was tied up in a rope. And, the whole analogy behind that is that we're all tied to our thoughts, and sometimes they
Mhm.
strangle us, and sometimes they don't. So it was really cool, like being in this. We literally tied each other up together in a group, and so as I'm moving, the other artist is moving, and it was a very interesting, a very interesting experience. So
Wow, the tying of the rope. Got to
yeah.
see that. So, you mentioned sorry, not sorry. So, how was the process creating this body of work?
The process was interesting because I, in the music industry, and even currently as I work in the music industry and do different
Mhm.
things, it's very much like structural. It's kind of like do this and you might get a hit, or you might get this type of record. For me, these last couple of projects that I've put out have really been, very much myself. And so going about that process has been interesting because I'm working with myself as an artist rather than the the idea of being in the music industry where you have to like do certain things in order for things to happen. And so working on this album, I actually went to Japan and I worked on a lot of this record in Japan. So I was on bullet trains, with my headphones on, working on beats. And then I was, when I got back, I did the whole album. Once I got all the tracks together, I was able to go through the tracks I liked and then kind of create a narrative behind each song. And then after that, I wanted it to all mesh together. So I played it in a DJ form. So I put it in a DJ mixer and just started mixing all the records together. So what you hear is actually, like real time, the album being finished, like you'll hear the cuts and the chops and all those things are real time. So yeah.
I respect that real time, nice
Yeah.
and raw, like a raw
Yeah.
project. Super dope. So, what's your favorite project in 2023 so far? I know we're midway, but anything that you're excited about currently in
I
your
think currently,
creative?
I'm like the quintessential artist where it's like,
Mhm.
the last thing that I've done is like my favorite thing that I've done. So I would say right now, my favorite thing is really the Tide project. I mean, uh, thinking about like how we created the moment there or whatnot. I mean, all that was real time too. So I've been really working with the idea of real time, because I feel like, with AI and with all this stuff happening,
Yes.
nothing's actually like real, to an extent. It's kind of like we're in this space where, do you know what is real, what is not? And so I
Mhm.
want to show myself that I can do things that are like, like people are being able to experience it as I'm experiencing it, in the same way that I'm experiencing it. And I think that's going to be the thing that kind of separates like AI from, you
Mhm.
know, uh, the human. And so that's what I'm excited about at the moment. I do have an art show coming up. Sorry but not sorry. I
Mhm.
believe it's going to be in August, and I have another one in September. So I'm looking forward to that and showing some new paintings and some new pieces, and yeah, working on the next movement. That's kind of my thing.
That's around the corner. Looking forward to it.
Totally, yeah. It's like, and my favorite thing is like when a project comes up and it's like right around the corner. It's like
Mhm.
I have stuff at home, but like I said, real time. Sometimes I might even make that like for the red show. I'm probably made like a few of those paintings like a week before the show, or maybe like a day before the show, and said, "Hey, put this one up." You know what I mean? Because this is how I'm
Mhm.
feeling right now.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Great, love to see it. So it is time. Oh, sorry, you guys. Excuse me. It is time for our accept segment. So tonight's live episode is titled "Rebrand and Reflect." So it's going off of tonight. I have an Augie Ray, and you reappearing back on the show, and it be in the middle of the year. So the active question of the day is: how has 2023 shaped you so far? So I asked this on our social media platforms. Someone said it allowed them to let go, and even to let go of people. So I thought that was an interesting time. I would say for me, how has 2023 shaped me so far? You know what? It shaped me to enjoy and be more mindful. I made that my theme this year, which was enjoyment. And I feel like since I like basically put that out there in the open, it's definitely been something that's been playing out. I realized there was a lot of things that I paid attention to in past years that stumped my growth, or stopped me from
Mm,
enjoying like the
yeah.
simple things in life. And I think since I made that my theme, it's been helping me enjoy even like just even work, even other, creative, the creative side of me and just things around me. So
It's
what about
amazing.
you? How has 2023 shaped you so far?
I think 2023 has shaped me in a way of kind of, I mean, I love this title, like rebrand and reflect. I think
Mhm.
it's allowed me to, kind of in this, piggybacking off of the, the person that you mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
which was, letting go. I think it's detachment, being able to get into your deepest, darkest fears and embrace those things, as well as like your failures, like
Mhm.
this life is a marathon, but it's also
Mhm.
a sprint. It's very short in that sense. And so, unfortunately, I lost my grandmother this year,
Um,
and it really changed my perspective on life, and what are we doing this for? Is it just for recognition, or is it
mhm.
something deeper? And I think from that, I was able to really lock into like expression, and I think I'm a totally different person. It's almost like I've been like, I've just been reborn in that sense. So I guess I would say like being reborn and kind of detaching, like where I totally believe like this is what I'm here to do, is to express myself on any type of medium and not box myself in. So yeah, I would say,
Mm.
yeah.
And that was a great answer, by the way. And I want to say, if you're out there listening, please comment in the chat box. We would love to hear your answer to the questions, or you have any questions for Augie Ray as well. Tap in and ask and join the discussion. So let's talk about the importance of not being afraid to rebrand yourself. You mentioned fears, putting that aside. And I learned with life, we're always changing. As much as we're like, oh, this is the way that I am. I grew up this way, this and that. Like as you get older, you do see life through a different perspective. Like I feel like this year, I'm 29, I'll be 30 in 6 months. Wow.
That's cool. Okay.
It's been a very self-reflecting year for me, and like me not being afraid to rebrand myself and figure out who I am and who is this. I did an episode on being grown. who is this grown version of myself, that I'm stepping into, So, and I think with rebranding yourself, it's not even just with a business or your creative side. It's you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's your everyday. It's how you view things, how you view the world, how you step into the world. So I think that's definitely something to keep in mind. I want to say too, different chapters require different versions of us. How many of us we want to reach a certain goal or certain things, but it's going to take a certain version of you, maybe a disciplined version, maybe a more enjoyment version if you want a luxury lifestyle. So, those are things I've really been reflecting on a lot lately.
Yeah, 100%. I think, as far as being able to rebrand yourself, I think you have to dive deep into your inner self, as you mentioned. You have to know the extent of how far you can go, like, and I think that everyone has intuition, everybody has, instinct. And I think actually, the world strips you from a lot of these things, because we grow up in a very like, structural and, also very programmed world. Every comfortability thrives off of, normal pattern, you know what I mean? And so when everybody lives in a pattern and they create a pattern, and the way you create a pattern is by forming that pattern. Some of the things that we do, we don't even actually know that we do these things, and we also don't even know like where they come from. And so like diving deeper and creating like in rebranding, I think really comes from the ability to fail, right? Or whatever we would say is failing or whatnot. But why would you want to rebrand? Like rebranding is like obviously something's not working out correctly. So when you kind of take that turn allows you to be like, okay, let me figure out what I actually want rather than what everybody else wants me to do. And so I think that over time, I plan to probably rebrand in the future, and continue to rebrand and and really embrace that in the sense of like growth, because I don't think you can grow without like, like reintroducing yourself. When we look at like Jay-Z or whatnot, it's like Jay-Z was talking about nothing but, selling drugs and doing all different types of stuff. Now he's talking about things that we don't even understand, because he's on such a high level. But if he was like a Nas, and I think Nas is amazing, but at the same time, Nas kept on talking about selling drugs and doing different things that it's kind of like, bro, you're not really doing that on this. I mean, you probably are, but it's like you're trying to relate, but you can't really,
Or at this age,
yeah,
the age you are now too.
I mean, people say that about Drake. It's like, dude, Drake, you got to stop talking about like dating women and leaving them and doing all this. Like, bro, you're a big guy now. You know what I mean?
What you doing?
Yeah, you're an adult. Let's go. So yeah,
that was a good point. That was a really good point.
yeah.
And I want to say too, also too, rebranding sometimes requires a different environment. I learned too, certain people are only meant for certain chapters of your life. So like you were saying, these rappers, certain people they hung with, them getting older, now they're probably dealing with hanging, their environment's a whole different crowd of people. Or if they're being married now and all those things change. And I think we can't be afraid of what comes with that. I think there's a lot of consequences with staying the same, like you just mentioned with Nas.
Yeah.
And there's other things, you know what I mean? You're like, life literally will pass you by from staying the same.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm always want to change and get better and see how I can enhance myself or my career or anything around or people around me as well.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, I don't like to use like Grammy winning and all. I mean, like I have those accolades, but at the same time, it's one of those things where I allow that to like shape me for a long period of time. It's like, yo, I got a Grammy and I'm out here, but like it only just left me in a certain box. You know what I mean? And now that I feel like open to be like, hey, I'm a pluralist. Like I'm the pluralist in that sense, and it's like, you can do all of these things, and it's the growth and the amalgamation of like who I am on the inside. And so that's really been great for me at the moment.
That was well said too. And I wanted, like, I love that perspective of it. And also too, sometimes rebranding requires you to start from scratch. I mean, I'm gonna be real, SpeakUpJV just went through a transition. I'm now, I started this show with my best friend, we're still best friends and everything, but now this is a new leap for me, a new challenge for me to rebrand and take the show to a different level. Where I don't know, which direction it's going, but that's what makes it exciting. Totally. And I think, we need to find the excitement in the rebrand, even if it is you starting from scratch. It's nothing like a fresh palette and then seeing which colors you could create. So have you ever had to start over in your creative career? If so, how did you pivot through it?
Several times. I mean, I've been doing music since I was like 13 years old. So, like, and I've been a professional, as far as since I was 16 years old, and every time, it's almost like, like when you're in like middle school and you get to like this 8th grade and you're like, yo, I'm the biggest person on campus right now, and then you go to high school and you just like, boom, back to square one, and then you get into 12th grade. Yeah, I'm the biggest kid on campus right now. And then you get into college and you're like, boom, back to square one again or whatnot. That to me is what like life and like also like, the music industry as well as just the entertainment industry in general is. Like you can't feel yourself enough, you know what I mean? In a sense of like getting to a certain place, you're going to get to a place where you plateau, and you should, if you are someone that is exponential, you know what I mean? You should get bored, you should get tired, you should be like, what should I be doing or whatnot? And then within the rebranding stage is the regrowth or is the growth stage, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like you hit that rebranding portion, and then you're like, all right, man, like what am I doing wrong? You have awareness at this point. A lot of people can continue to go up, or not go up, but they'll stay in one area for a very long time because they have no awareness. But a part of like the rebrand is the awareness. What do we need to do to make this better or greater? And so to go to my experiences, like especially like within the music industry, I've had records that like Rihanna, has recorded, and like, I've had records where you have like the whole industry writing, for this song or whatever the case. I have songs that haven't come out that are huge songs with some of the biggest artists in the music industry, especially at that time, like Meghan Trainors and things like that at that time, when I was really avidly going hard with, Billboard, and top 10s and all that other stuff. But yeah, it was a roller coaster up and then boom, straight down. And so I've lost members, like, friends and stuff. Like I was in a production team for a very long time with producing, and, we ended up going our different ways because we both had different opinions and thoughts or whatnot. And that was a rebrand in itself. And then in that rebrand, it took me a long time to like build myself back up because it was kind of like, I don't know what I'm like without this person at that time. I mean, like, what does this look like for me? But through it all, I wouldn't change it for the world because, out of that came, like a phoenix, it's just kind of like, I'm at a place where I'm like, wow. I mean, at that time, you know what I mean? And then after that, you get something new that you enjoy, and then you might rebrand again and then rebrand again until it's perfect. And, or not perfect, but it's as good as it can be. And then at that point, you understand the mechanisms and the functionality of it. And now you become a master. Most people, they think they're like masters in a day or instant masters. Unfortunately, with, obviously social media and like AI and stuff, like there's a lot of stuff that we can't compete with, you know what I mean? But a master is somebody that day in and day out, doesn't matter if they win or they lose, they're here, and that to me is wisdom. Yeah, some of the rebranding that I've done in my life is being able to navigate that since I was 17 years old, like losing people, building people, going on that roller coaster. So yeah.
Ooh. And I'm glad you highlighted the importance of growth through that. I think we think rebranding is just slapping a new logo and this and that, but no, it's the growth, it's the change. Like you said, what's not working. So Thank you for bringing up those good nuggets. I hope y'all taking notes out there. So it is now time for our tweet up segment. So you guys know I like to be on Twitter. So something that I tweeted this week that goes with tonight's episode is enhance your craft. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself to do so. So this is important to go is going off of everything that we're talking about, that growth, not being afraid of the challenge, the fear that comes with the rebranding. I think finding the excitement in that, in the day, that's going to help you learn and grow. Like you said, allow you to be a master, allow you to gain that wisdom, to take your brand or yourself to the next level. So I have a question. How would you say you have enhanced your creativity since your last Speak Up JV appearance?
I think that I've enhanced it by being objective about my work, and being able to invest in what I do, in the sense that, when you're first coming out, you're kind of trying to test if the water is good or whatever the case is. And it can be hard to invest in yourself. It can be hard to, spend the type of money that you need in order to create, the companies and the empire and the things that you want, you know what I mean? But I definitely think since the last time we met, my confidence in what I do has like definitely, went up a lot of notches, in the sense that I just felt that, for me, I think prior to it was just kind of like me like stepping out on water and faith and kind of figuring it out. But these days I feel like I'm more in a space of like, this is what I was born to do. You know what I mean? It's not something that is by coincidence. Everything that I touch or do, it seems to always come together. And so I have to rely on that, and be in faith with that. And so for me, to answer that question, I think it's mainly like, to enhance yourself is to do it every day. I think that's kind of where I've been at lately. So
I love that. And, I think too, stepping out of your comfort zone plays a huge role. I'm on a running journey right now. So,
nice.
I used to, I'm, pushing up my miles. I ran my first 5K on Juneteenth and things like that. I wasn't, I would like to run, but I wasn't like a long runner and things like that. And
That's
like,
amazing.
thank you. I know. In like what I wanted, like I'm using that example of, I had to push myself out of that comfort zone, to get to another mile, Like one day I do want to run a marathon.
Let's go.
I'm just getting out them comfort zones, as as we're talking about here, to enhance that and to challenge myself. So look.
Yeah. And I think another thing with that is like, because I've ran I've ran 7 marathons since.
Lovely.
But I never saw myself as a runner. I woke up one day and just was like, hey, just like you, let me do, a few miles here. Let me do that. And that's what it takes, in order to eat an elephant, you got to eat it one bite at a time. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where, brick by brick, you're going to get to that goal. And so, I really think that's great. That's amazing that you're, going out there and running and doing that, because it does. Because even in the rebranding phase, you can't be out here putting in negativity in your body. That's another thing, and you can't, you have to go the opposite, because there's two sides to it. It's like you have one portion that's like, all right, can I do this? And then if you're just pouring, negativity into your body, it's not going to function for you in the way that it needs to. So even in times like, the rebranding stage for me is, also fighting through, how is this all going to work? And does this even matter? Does anybody even care? Or whatever the case is. And so fighting through that, I have to go to the gym, work out all the time. And even when it hurts, you're still there. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, I love that you said, yeah. And like running has been teaching me patience and discipline, because it's like, that's real. Rebranding isn't easy. Changing a different direction. You got to have that patience. Like, okay, one step at a time. And there is rejection and failure in the journey. It's a part of it. So I think, like you said, you're working on something big, trying to get to a big goal. It does help you in the long run. So, and also too, with it being the middle of the year, the importance of middle of the year self-reflections. Like, this is a good milestone. I feel, the sun is out now. We're past all that cloudiness. And I think this is a really good time to self-reflect. So if you're listening out there, please comment some ways that you guys have been self-reflecting. I would love to hear. So I'm asking you, what's your favorite way to self-reflect?
My favorite way to self-reflect is meditation. I think it's, like you said, running does teach you patience. It also teaches you how to, especially when you run a marathon, it's not about what everyone else thinks. It's about what you think, because you can, start talking to people and be like, I ran that marathon. I'd be like, oh my goodness, you ran a marathon? That's really cool. But they don't know what it feels like to, have heat marks all over your back, or to wake up the next morning and you could barely get out of bed because your
That's
feet,
real.
are jacked up, or toenails are falling off, and all this stuff. It's like they're not going through the pain that you're going through. They're not
Mhm.
embracing that experience. And so, to answer the question, I feel that meditation for me has been something where in real time I'm able to say, this is a negative thought. I don't want this thought. I'm going to go towards the positive thought and kind of navigate in that way. And so that's definitely been a great way for me to self reflect and to, be aware, and be in the moment and be in the now. I think that, that is like being able to be intentional about being
Mhm.
in the now. It's like right now I'm on this podcast with you, so there's no phones or anything. I turned off everything. I'm focused on having this conversation. When, for some reason in society, it's cool to like be doing like 5 different things at one time or something to make yourself feel like something's happening. But I try to be intentional about what I can and cannot do. So yeah.
Intentional about what I can and cannot do. That's a quote right there. That's a bar. Love it. So, so it is time for our life up segment. So the life up segment is when I take the topic and I relate it to today's world. So tonight's life up is people using starting over as an excuse to quit. So this is a huge one because how many times have we had to start something over? You like, man, I'm about to stop right here.
Yeah.
And although for starting over can be frustrating, sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. I can't think how many times I kind of started over and it actually went better than how it was going when I first was doing something. I think it shouldn't be an excuse to quit. I think it should be an excuse to pivot, to readjust, to enhance, to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
I think we need to change our perspective. There's this book I'm reading, Sacred Woman. And it talked about, how we say words are powerful, things we put out there and stuff. So it talked about like another way to change your self-talk. Like, so instead of saying that you're sick, say your body's detoxing.
There you go.
Instead of it being a bad day, it was a challenging day. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't mean these things aren't happening to us, but it's just the perspective and shifting it. I'm like, wow, when you view it that way, it's not so much you put in negativity into the world.
Yeah, totally. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, I would comment on that too. I think that, as far as like being in the space, I remember this one time I was at the gym and I was working out, and growing up, from like a poverty mindset, this really changed my idea of finances. But I was talking and I said, man, like I don't even say this word anymore, so it might be hard for me to even say this right now. But I was like, yeah, man, I'm broke or whatever. And this lady turns to me and she goes, you're not broke. Don't ever say that. She's like, just say that you're saving up. Like you have a budget, and say that, your budget just is not in a space that you are able to get something or whatnot. And that totally just changed my perspective, of the way that I look at, finances or whatever. But for myself, it's like the things that we say are super powerful. So for someone to say that they're, starting over and then, and making that like a way to quit, I don't think that like, one, I think diving deeper into that, you didn't really want to do it anyway. You know what I mean? It's kind of an excuse for you to just be like, yeah, I don't really actually want to do this anymore. And you should just say that, you know what I mean? Instead of like creating an excuse. I think the other thing is that, starting over feels like failure, feels like, dang, even for me, I feel like as a Grammy winning producer, songwriter, like I'm starting over. It's like nobody necessarily knows who I am, like in this space of artistry or whatnot, because I never showed myself as an artist. So some of it is, makes me feel like, dang, like I have to like reintroduce myself again, I have to work my way up the ladder and all this stuff. But the starting over is also, where the beauty starts. It's kind of like the awareness and to be able to say, this is how I want to introduce myself to the world. So yeah, I think to answer that question, I think that like, that idea of like starting over and then creating an excuse, to me is is really BS. It's really something that you don't actually want to do, So
That's true, because if you want something, it's like nothing's gonna stop you. And I want, and another part of the life up too is taking the wrong people to the new chapter. So how many times we try to bring the baggage with us? Like Erica Badu said, "Bag lady, let it go, let it go." And
yeah,
it's so much truth to that. You know what I mean? So it's like if we're in this new chapter, rebranding. It's time to clean out that clutter. Just like when you move to a new apartment, you're not gonna take a bunch of old stuff you had in your old place. So it's the same thing. So how do we fix this? Let go of the old baggage. Don't be afraid of change, and honestly ask yourself, is this what you want, before using any excuse to quit. So what advice would you give to an upcoming artist?
advice. I mean, I would say first, be true to yourself. I mean, I know that sounds cliche, but the truth is that who are you, like really get to the core of like who you actually are. And so, like, without me being vague, how do you find yourself? You got to be alone with yourself. You have to love yourself. Love yourself with all your mistakes and all the things that make you who you are, and then understand yourself, and teach other people how to understand you as well. I think a good point was, like you said, like to kind of get rid of like the old baggage and stuff, but be aware of how you feel when certain people are around. That's how you'll know this is not a person that like makes me feel like my best or whatever, and distance yourself from that, because they're not in. I mean, like, one, you're not obligated to be their friend, and you're not obligated to be around them. And so I keep my circle super tight, with the people that I talk to every day and work with, or whatever the case is, because I take great deal in understanding that first, I am the value, then everyone else is. You know what I mean? And that's not ego. What it is saying, like, I gotta love myself before I can love everybody else around me. And so to answer your question, I think like the advice would be like, go inward and don't be afraid to be yourself. You know what I mean? To show yourself. If you're nerdy and you're quirky or whatever the case is, but you have this facade of like, yo, I'm hanging with the cool people and like all that stuff is gonna wear off, and then
yes,
you have nothing. You know what I mean? You can wear the Dior, you can wear the Gucci and all this stuff, but you're still a nerd. Okay, so
own it too.
You know what I mean? And it's cool because you could be quirky, you can be all these things, and you just embrace those things and allow that to just be your signature and your imprint on this world.
Ooh, that was well. So you dropping some more nuggets on there. So it is now time for our drink up segment. So if you're listening out there, please pull out some water and drink some water. And I have a water fact for tonight. It was hot today. Woo! Hey. So tonight's right. So tonight's drink up. Oh, in Seattle. Oh, I bet it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So the drink up for tonight. Water plays an important role in providing energy to the brain. Our brain just works better when it's well hydrated. Well-hydrated brains function faster with more clarity and greater creativity. Okay, so drink that water and get more creative. Okay,
yeah,
look, I love that. That's a good one. It goes with tonight's episode. So back to the episode. How do you keep your creative side alive?
How do you keep it alive? You defend it at by any means necessary. You have to defend your position and defend like what you're saying. For a long time I felt very like afraid to offend by my words. And my thing is, intention is such a big thing, like in the sense that my intention is not to hurt anybody when I say what I'm saying or whatnot, but it's to express. And the difference is that when you're expressing yourself, people are not going to agree with what you express, and you have to get to a place where you're able to either, one, defend your position if you feel like you need to, or two, you need to be able to, own it, own what you said, you know what I mean? And then get perspective maybe on what you're saying. Maybe you might have said something and you're like, yeah, I stand behind that, but you don't know the full, understanding behind it, be okay with being objective about that as well. Like to be able to hear somebody out and to be like, oh, okay, well, and then fire back to what you think or whatnot. But I think you have to defend yourself, in order to protect your art. You know what I mean? And you have
Mm.
to, you have to be in a space of, um, always moving the needle forward as well. Like, a lot of people don't study these days, and unfortunately, there's a lot of books and stuff that are disappearing, in libraries and all, like, and it's almost like 1980 or 19, was that book
What was the
called?
year? I can't think of the year. 1971? No, 19. I know what you're talking about. I know what book you're talking about. When they couldn't
1984.
read.
Yeah,
84, when they couldn't
yeah,
read. Yeah.
yeah. 1984. It's like they're getting rid of all these books and stuff, and it's like, man, like, the truth is that that's what's happening right now, and we're losing track of really how to be masters at what we do or whatnot. And so continue to study, study the greats, study those that you look to and are inspired to, and don't be afraid to, like, put money into and invest into professional development. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I
Yes.
tell people all the time. It's like, yo, you want to own a multi-million-dollar company, but you want to do it based off the strength of what you know. That's not going to get you to the finish line. What's going to get you to the finish line is, like, look at any athlete. They're getting professional development. They got coaches. They got, friggin' med people that can help them with their medicine and whatever they need in order to get, like, LeBron has over $1 million in investments for his body. You know what I mean? Just a year, And so that is the type of, like, power you need to put into yourself as you're,
Mm.
creating your art and, being a creative. I think that's, like, the most important, is that investment in yourself, for sure.
Wow, that was a good, strong, creative answer too, by the way. Love it. So it is now time for the Poets Up segment. So y'all know I like to write poetry, and this is one of the newest segments I added on here, Poet Up. So I'm gonna be sharing a quote from one of my poems. Hopefully I can get it to where I have other artists sharing their work as well. But my Poet Up quote for the night is actually, give me 1 second. Oh, it's actually my poem I wrote about resilience. So I defeat the twists and turns and the tornadoes that come my way. I bounce back before I bounce backwards. I see success becoming my reality. I feel prosperity becoming my new path. So yeah, that was a nice short and sweet for tonight. For tonight's Poet Up segment. So snap. So now back to the episode. I want to say this too. Starting over is better than quitting. So
it is.
I've been telling myself this too, Augie. That every day is a new opportunity. That actually has been helping me. Like, even if, like, there's a goal I'm trying to reach, I didn't reach it yet. When a new day happens, I'm like, okay, it's a new opportunity to make it happen. So I've been even shifting my perspective with that, like a new hour, and I think breaking it down into those many things really helps.
Yeah.
So okay, you just say
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is now time for our show up segment. This is also a new segment that I added to SpeakUpJV. So the question is, how did I show up for myself this week? I would say I showed up for myself this week by allowing myself to be vulnerable. And I say that because, vulnerability is also a shame. It's also often shame sometimes, oh, why are you feeling this way, feeling that way? And I see it as strength and admiration, a way to, like, really allow yourself to detox any emotions that you've been holding. And it helps you just shed any dead skin so you can rebrand and start fresh. So what about you? How did you show up for yourself this week?
This week, I think I just listened to my inner self, and, I decided that whatever my intuition says I'm going to do. It's like I like to go to record shops and pick up records. I like to be creative. Like, I just bought, like, a Super 8 camera so I could shoot Super 8, and then I like doing photography and stuff, and then taking a flight to Seattle, randomly. I think last week we were just like, cool, I'm just gonna pick up and go. And I think that's how I show up for myself. Is I love experiences and adventure, and
Mhm.
it allows me to be free into myself. So yeah, and then as far as like professionally showing up, I think it's just about being prepared, so you don't have to get ready. And I think for me, it's like I like to put things on a conveyor belt. I don't like to I work for a long period of time for about a few hours, and then I move on, and then I have a lot of stuff to choose from, so I'm always ready to go.
Mm. Well, good job on showing up for yourself this week. So, what is something with your craft that you would like to accomplish before 2023 ends?
Hmm.
Manifest it.
That's a good question. I think that what I would like to accomplish really is I want to define the pluralist in the sense that you know I that's a really good question. I mean, defining the pluralist in the sense of just being able to um, do as many things as I can this year that allow myself to expand and grow. I think by the end of this year, I really want to have a lot of that sweat equity taken care of, so I can start focusing on just doing, because the sweat equity part is what you're building. It's like you're doing a podcast here, you're doing blogs here, you're creating the content and then maneuvering. So I would like to, by the end of this year, I would like to be established as the brand, the Pluralist brand. So yeah.
Mm. All right, put it out there. And I like to ask a fun question on here for every guest. So, what's a memorable reaction that someone has had to a piece of your art?
Memorable reaction. Hmm. I think the one thing that sticks out to my head is so the art industry is very interesting. It's almost like the music industry. And
Mhm.
it's like if you ain't got a name, like people aren't really checking for you. You have a few people that might show up every now and then and whatnot. But I think the reaction on like, these art dealers' face, like when, I came to them maybe like a few years, or not a few years, but maybe earlier in the year, and they're like, oh, this is cool, whatever, but then they show up and they're like, Augie, I didn't know that you were gonna do something like this. You know what I mean? To me, I think that it's just like, no, one, I'm gonna do that and more. And as I move on to the next stage, it's really not about like what you think, but it's really about like what is actually resonating. So, I've gotten some good reactions. I mean, a lot of great reactions from art, people buying art and things like that. But I think the things that stick out in my head sometimes are like the things where it's like, wow, you didn't you didn't think it was gonna be like this, and then I did it, and then it was like, whoa, like let's talk and let's do lunch, So that's the interesting thing for me.
Blowing their minds. Love it.
Yeah.
So, it is time for the wrap up segment. So, how does this relate to self love? Self love is loving yourself enough to not give up and to allow yourself to start over and do it better and to enhance. So, I think that's just an important takeaway for tonight's episode with reflecting and rebranding. So, y'all, it's the middle of the year. Allow yourself to reflect. And if you need to rebrand, allow yourself to rebrand. So, Augie, how have you practiced self love in 2023 since we've asked you this before?
Yeah, I mean, I think that self love for me is, kind of like what I mentioned about like showing up in the sense that I, every week I got to take myself out to have, something nice to eat. I'll sit down at a restaurant, even just by myself or maybe with someone else, or I'll go get coffee. And sit down and have like I normally get a matcha or something like that. I'll also I like to shop every now and then, so I'll go get records, or I might go find like the other day I picked up some pants that I liked or whatnot. But I think for me, it's just like doing those things that feel more humanistic. You know what I mean? Like picking your clothes, like kind of picking your items and being able to hold them and touch them and stuff. So it's for me like that's how that's how I've been able to pour into myself for 2023 for sure.
Mm, well said. Well said. And also, just to wrap up tonight's episode, there is growth and change, and rebranding is another way to regroup. So I just think we shouldn't be afraid of it. It's actually a new door opening. Let that old door shut. We're gonna change regardless, whether you want to or not. Then you might as well do it the enhancement way, right? So
100%.
I appreciate you coming back to Speak Up JV.
Yeah,
It was so nice to have you. Where can people shout out your information? Shout out any upcoming events. Where can people find you?
of course. So thank you so much again, Vernisha. I really appreciate just being on the show. I always enjoy your presence and just
Likewise.
the vibes and stuff. And where everybody can follow me is right now. Take out your phone, go on to Instagram, go to, or you can actually just go directly to IamAugieRay.com, or you can go to my link tree, which is also IamAugieRay.com for updates and events. I have my show next month, so please make sure you show up to that. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have installation art. We're going to have, just mind-boggling things. Because I'm always trying to think. I mean, I'm always thinking outside the box with, the things that I'm doing or whatnot. So next month, we have a show. September we have a show. So tap in by getting on that link tree because I always update it. If you want to see some of the things I mentioned in the show, which would be the Tide installation piece, that's going to be on YouTube, but you can go ahead and check that out. So, yep.
Woo! Make sure you guys tap in for real, for real. I appreciate y'all tapping into the 18th episode of Speak Up JV's newest segment, Speak Up JV Now. Make sure y'all tap in. Before I go, quick shout out to our amazing sponsors. Shout out to My Bar, located at 720 East Manchester, Inglewood, California. Get your nails, your lashes, your hair done. Ask for mine. Tell them that Speak Up JV sent you. The Instagram is at myy.bar. And also shout out to Be Actual Natural. Why settle for less? All their products are created with you in mind for a go to let your self-love show through your self-care. The chemical-free hair and skincare products are handmade, plant-based, and free of fillers or preservatives. Treat yourself while taking care of yourself. Start your journey at www.beactualnatural.com, and the IG is at beactualnatural. I will be back next week with another episode Thursday at 8:30 p.m. And I also have a giveaway coming up, so stay tuned for that. Yes, and tell everybody to tap in with Speak Up JV. It's global, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Thank you again for showing for showing up on here. It was good to see you again, and yeah, I'll definitely have to check out your upcoming events.
Please. All right. Thank you so much, Vernisha. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one, everyone. Have a good week, y'all.